Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 1, Episode 18. Roar! A violent spiritual energy pervaded the inside of the forest. The silver-horned panther dragon stared at Shorten, who was nearby and covered in blood, with its red eyes. A low roar filled with hatred and killing intent emitted constantly out from his mouth. From this human's body, it smelled the fresh blood of its cub. Could this abominable human hurt its cub before? Although a high-ranked spiritual beast were many times more intelligent than a low-ranked spiritual beast, it was still incomparable to a human's. While it was angry, it only wanted to tear apart any human or spiritual beast that was tainted with its cub's smell. Bastard! Shorten stared at the silver-horned panther dragon as his body emitted a cold chill. He glanced venomously at Mu-Chen. Who would have imagined that this boy, who he could have captured easily, would be this cunning? He knew that this was a terrible situation for him, but he had a lustful nature. This is why he wanted to vent out fiercely before trouble arrived. Then he found a beauty that was as beauty as a flower, and it instantly made his heart twitch. But how would we have known that this tiny twitch would bring forth such a large trouble to him? "I will never forgive you," Shorten shouted out maliciously. As he stomped on the ground, a powerful spiritual energy suddenly erupted from his body. The man instantly retreated violently and passed through the thick woods. It was evident that he was planning on running. Roar. However, the silver-horned panther dragon did not intend to let him go this easily. In an instant, his powerful body lowered, and it turned into a silver streak of light as it charged out. The silver-horned panther dragon possesses the strength of a spirit stage powerhouse. Its speed naturally surpassed Shorten, and it appeared behind him after a short moment. This violent spiritual energy fluctuation made Shorten's face change. Spirit leopard slaughter! Nevertheless, Shorten wasn't an ordinary person. He forcibly twisted his body in midair, and spiritual energy gushed out as he let out a cry. The spiritual energy on the surface of his body actually turned into the shape of a spirit leopard, and he fired off a punch. It was as if the leopard and human had fused when he smashed his fist over angrily at the silver-horned panther dragon. The spirit leopard wrapped around Shorten's body as it collided fiercely with the silver light. A cry instantly rang out, and violent spiritual energy shock waves expanded out, smashing the surrounding trees. Bang! As the spiritual energy impact expanded out, Shorten's body flew back helplessly. He let out a painful scream as his body fell heavily onto the ground and his right arm covered with blood. The center of his palm even had a bloody hole, and fresh blood was pouring out. When Mu-Chen noticed this, he lifted an eyebrow slightly. After all, he saw it clearly yesterday. The conflagration ape king was instantly killed by the silver-horned panther dragon. Yet Shorten only lost an arm today to it. This guy was definitely powerful. The silver-horned panther dragon fell down on the ground, and its beastly eyes stared coldly at Shorten. Without any delay, its muscular body darted forward again, and the silver light was filled with the scent of death. When Shorten noticed, he hurriedly rolled back awkwardly a few rounds. Although he managed to avoid the silver-horned panther dragon's rush, he was still hit by the silver-horned panther dragon's steel-like tail. Poochie! The silver-horned panther dragon's tail swept and hit Shorten's chest. He instantly spat out blood from his mouth, and his fierce eyes slowed down. After enduring these two attacks from the silver-horned panther dragon, he was already gravely injured. The injuries were much more severe than when he was fighting against Liu Ming and the others. "If this continues, I'll be killed by the silver-horned panther dragon." Shorten gritted his teeth, and he stared maliciously toward the direction of Mu-Chen. However, he was stunned. This is because the boy, who was lying on the ground earlier, had suddenly disappeared without him knowing. "That little asshole. Just wait until I catch you. I will definitely make it so that you can neither live nor die." Shorten was so angry that his face turned blue as he let out a howl within his heart. Just when he was distracted, the silver-horned panther dragon charged over like lightning again. Its sharp claws left a deep blood trail on his body, and the terrible pain made him see stars. "This damn beast!" Shorten cursed loudly, and a strange red light flashed through his face suddenly. Fierceness surfaced within his eyes, and his body hurriedly retreated backwards. Afterwards, his hands began to quickly form seals, and a rampaging spiritual energy surged out from his body. As the spiritual energy poured out, A thunderstorm sound rang out. Boom! The sounds of thunder suddenly intensified, and Shui-Tu spat out fresh blood. His sluggish aura rapidly increased all of a sudden, and his speed also accelerated. He turned into a vague shadow as he turned to the other way and desperately tried to escape. Roar! The silver-horned panther dragon also let out a roar when it noticed the desperately escaping Shui-Tu. Its body turned into a silver light, and it chased after him as if it was not planning to spare him. A human and a beast crazily darted through the forest. Shui-Tu was secretly resentful as he noticed the silver-horned panther dragon in hot pursuit of him. The method of stimulating his spiritual energy would hurt himself gravely. The after effects were not small either. But in this current situation, did he have any other options? If he fails to escape from the silver-horned panther dragon, he would definitely die today. While he was being chased, Shui-Tu spat out 5 mouthfuls of blood. His originally dark face was pale like a sheet of paper. The sense of frailness that came from his body made his head dizzy. However, he was finally able to relax. After chasing Shui-Tu for approximately 10 minutes, the silver-horned panther dragon gradually slowed down. In the end, it let out a roar and turned away leisurely. He watched as the silver-horned panther dragon gave up, but he did not dare stop. He held a breath as it fled for another few minutes before rolling awkwardly to a cluster of bush. Shui-Tu's body became limp when he rolled into the bushes. His spiritual energy was almost completely exhausted. He constantly panted heavily before he looked down at the injuries on his body. He wanted to weep, yet there were no tears. Who would expect that he would suffer such a helpless fate because he wanted to hunt down a spiritual movement stage brat? This was something that even Lu Ming and the others couldn't do. "Little trash, I'll never forgive you." Shui-Tu gritted his teeth as he said out maliciously. Swish. Just when these words were blurted out, the hairs on his body trembled. His many memories of life and death lingered in his head and emptied his mind. Shwa. A cold chill erupted out from the forest behind him. Then a sharp coldness flashed by his head, and a deep bloodstain appeared on his face. This sudden attack made Shui-Tu's face change instantly. He shouted out, "Who? The person you wanted to see the most!" A cheerful laughter rang out from the forest. Afterwards, a figure slowly came out. It was Mu Chen, with a tall height and brilliant smile seen on his handsome face. "Little trash, you dare come over here!" Shui-Tu suddenly cried out when he saw Mu Chen coming out from the forest. Mu Chen stared at him with a half smile, and spiritual energy surged out from his body. However, the black eyes did not have any hint of smiling intent, and was instead filled with a chill. "Boy, what are you planning to do? Although my condition isn't great right now, you would probably still lose your life if I do a desperate counterattack," Shui-Tu quickly shouted when he saw Mu Chen's appearance. "After all, we should mind our own businesses. Why don't we just cancel everything that happened today?" Mu Chen suddenly stopped moving and frowned. He said, "You really won't search for me to look for trouble?" Shui-Tu quickly said, "I can hardly protect myself now. I can swear. After all, why would I dare trouble you after you returned to the Northern Spiritual Academy?" "What you said was true?" Mu Chen seemed to hesitate as he nodded slightly. Shui-Tu's heart jumped with joy, but before he revealed his happiness. The corner of Mu Chen's mouth revealed a mocking smile. "But I still want to kill you!" Mu Chen's body darted over violently, and the spiritual energy within his body surged rapidly. A black light emitted out from his fists, and 2 black light seals emerged faintly. "Little trash! You just ruined your chance of saving yourself from the disgrace. You have a death wish." Shui-Tu's eyes turned dark when he saw Mu Chen charging over. He pushed out the remaining spiritual energy within his body and filled his arms with it. He let out a cry within his heart, and his arms stabbed out like spears. "Limitless death seal." Mu Chen clenched his fist tightly and let out a cry in his heart. The 2 black light seals erupted out a powerful black light. An overbearing and violent fluctuation emitted from the black light. Boom! The 4 fists collided against each other fiercely. The grass at their locations were forcibly destroyed due to the shockwave. As the spiritual energy impact burst out, the 2 figures flew backwards as fresh blood came out from their mouths. When Mu Chen landed on the ground, he did not stop at all. His body darted forward like a cheetah, and a powerful suction-like power appeared in his hand. He recovered the dagger that he threw earlier back into his hands. At this moment, Shui-Tu's body was already extremely sluggish. A cold chill flashed through his black eyes when Mu Chen approached instantly, and a black light flashed across his eyes. Fresh blood scattered everywhere. Painful screams resounded through the sky from Shui-Tu. His arms danced wildly as if it was attempting to kill Mu Chen. However, Mu Chen's body faded and reappeared behind Shui-Tu. The dagger within his hand was like a venomous snake, and he stabbed fiercely into Shui-Tu's vital points. The entire dagger entered the man's body. Fresh blood flowed through the dagger, endlessly dripped out. Shui-Tu, who was frantically swinging his body around, suddenly froze and collapsed down to the ground. His pale face still had an incredulous expression. He was a spiritual rotation stage late-phase powerhouse. Yet he would actually plummet to his death against a spiritual movement stage boy? When Shui-Tu fell onto the ground, Mu Chen's legs also grew weak, and he sat down on his butt. A sweet taste emerged within his throat, and he spat out fresh blood again. After Mu Chen rested on the ground for a while, he gritted his teeth and approached Wei-Tu's corpse. His hands probed around Wei-Tu's body. He had nearly lost his life, so he should definitely obtain some spoils of war. He wondered if the item that Shui-Tu stole from the Liu territory people was on his body or not. Mu Chen's hand probed around Shui-Tu's corpse. He was not that interested in Shui-Tu, but he was extremely interested on the item that Shui-Tu stole from the Liu territory. The Blood Slaughter Group was considered a relatively well-known force within the Northern Spiritual Realm. Although it cannot compare with the Nine territories, it was still quite capable. They were quite bossy with their daily actions, but they would take note not to cause trouble for the Nine territories. This was because they knew that the Blood Slaughter Group was no match for the Nine territories. Therefore, Mu Chen was curious. Just what item would make the Blood Slaughter Group take such a high risk and attack the Liu territory? Moreover, the reaction that the Liu territory gave made Mu Chen somewhat surprised. They actually massacred the Blood Slaughter Group and were unwilling to give up as they chased Shui-Tu into the Northern Spiritual Field. It was obvious that the item that Shui-Tu stole was something that they cared deeply about. Would an item that even the Liu territory was greatly concerned about be ordinary? Within the Northern Spiritual Realm, the Liu territory was the strongest amongst the Nine territories. Moreover, the Liu territory had always wanted to become the true boss of the Northern Spiritual Realm. They used various means, such as bribing and threatening to increase their strength among the Northern Spiritual territories. Furthermore, they would often reveal a position as if they were the strongest force within the Northern Spiritual Realm. Towards the Liu territory, who were displaying their strength like this, the other territory lords weren't acknowledging it, especially Mu Chen's father, Mu Feng. Mu Feng had bashed against the Liu territory's territory lord, Liu Qingtian, a long time ago. There was a lot of friction between the two territories and both sides disliked each other. Although they would smile on the surface towards each other, they would be ruthless towards the other when they had the chance. Because of this relationship, the two Liu brothers were always against him. Mu Chen naturally disliked the Liu territory as well. He was quite happy to do something that would harm the Liu territory. While these thoughts floated within Mu Chen's heart, his hand did not slow down. However, he did not discover anything strange on Shui-Tu's body, even after searching for a long time. He immediately frowned. Did this guy really hide the item? Mu Chen did not give up and directly removed Shui-Tu's clothes. Just when Mu Chen took off the last piece, an item finally fell down from the clothes. Mu Chen's eyes immediately looked over. He only saw a silver-gray circle like a bracelet, and it flashed a faint silver light as it dropped down to the ground. Mu Chen quickly bent down to pick up the silver-gray circle. He turned it back and forth and did not see anything special to it. He pondered for a moment before his eyes lit up. Could this be a mustard seed bracelet? The so-called mustard seed bracelet is a rather special spiritual artifact. It's how a sacred mountain can conceal a mustard seed. Yet a mustard seed could store a sacred mountain. This spiritual artifact has the power of constructing space and was an extremely valuable storage device. However, this item was rather expensive. Mu Chen had only saw it in his father's hand before. He did not expect that Shui-Tu would also have it. Mu Chen fiddled with the gray mustard seed bracelet. It was said that this item could be imprinted by the owner's spiritual energy. If others were to touch it, the owner would immediately be aware of it. However, Shui-Tu was dead now. The spiritual energy imprint must have disappeared by now. Mu Chen's hand grabbed onto the mustard seed bracelet and allowed his spiritual energy to flow into the mustard seed bracelet. A sudden space appeared within Mu Chen's perception. This was the mustard seed bracelet's storage space. Inside the mustard seed bracelet, Mu Chen definitely found many items. However, there was all kinds of items. He fumbled around roughly, yet he was not able to discover anything special. How could this guy have so much trash? He is still the Blood Slaughter Group's captain. Mu Chen let out a sigh and began to carefully search. After searching for a while, Mu Chen's mind suddenly moved. A light appeared within his hand, and an ancient copper piece appeared. When Mu Chen's spiritual energy swept through the mustard seed bracelet, the other items would react to the spiritual energy. However, only this item did not move at all. For being this ordinary, it attracted Mu Chen's attention. Mu Chen stared at the ancient copper piece and noticed that an obscure copper engraving covered the copper piece. These engravings were so complicated that it made him slightly dizzy when he looked at it. At the back of the copper engravings, the engraving lines were slightly clearer. He could roughly see a giant black bird flying with its wings. Underneath the giant bird was a mountain stream. However, the mountain stream seemed to be embraced by the giant bird. The wings covered the mountain. Just what spiritual beast is this? Mu Chen was somewhat surprised. Although the copper piece was quite vague, he was still able to feel a sense of awe from the engravings. This was what made him astonished. Just what spiritual beast was able to make him feel a sense of awe just through an engraving? Could it be a heaven-ranking beast? Mu Chen frowned and turned the copper piece around. However, he did not find anything else and could only shake his head. His instincts told him that it was highly possible that this item was the item that Joidu stole from the Lu territory. But as to what use this thing had, he would probably know only after letting his father check. Mu Chen shrugged. Just when he was about to continue looking around in the mustard seed bracelet, his mind suddenly moved. He heard the sound of winds breaking. Based on the direction, it was obvious that they were coming towards him. Mu Chen quickly placed the copper piece within the mustard seed bracelet. Afterwards, he quickly wore the mustard seed bracelet and used his sleeves to cover it up. Then he swiftly made Shui Tu wear back his clothes. Just when he finished with all this, a few figures emerged nearby. In a short moment, these figures appeared in the open space. Mu Chen glanced over and let out a sigh of relief. It was Teacher Mo and the others. Mu Chen! When Teacher Mo appeared, he saw Mu Chen standing nearby. His tensed face became delighted. His body moved and appeared next to Mu Chen and asked, "Are you all right?" Mu Chen smiled as he nodded with his head. Although he was slightly pale, his condition was still fine. "I heard from Chenair that you two met Shui Tu. Thus, I immediately chased all the way over. I finally met you here." It was evident that Teacher Mo was relieved when he saw Mu Chen safe and sound. However, he immediately frowned and looked at the surroundings. "That's right. Where's Shui Tu? That guy really has guts. He actually dares to attack our Northern Spiritual Academy students." Mu Chen let out a hollow laugh and pointed to the bush in front of him. He said, "That guy's dead." Teacher Mo's expression showed that he was clearly stunned. At the same time, Teacher Shi, who was behind him, was also startled. Afterwards, he waved his sleeves and a powerful spiritual energy directly blew away the bush. The cold corpse was exposed from it. Teacher Mo and Teacher Shi stared at the cold corpse. Their expressions changed and they stared incredulously at Mu Chen. What exactly happened? Just when Mu Chen was about to speak, the sound of wind breaking could be heard from another direction. He saw Liu Ming bringing a group of men as they approached quickly. Behind him were Liu Mubai and Liu Yang. They showed a surprised expression when they noticed that Mu Chen was actually safe and sound. "Shui Tu?" Liu Ming instantly noticed the corpse on the ground. His expression immediately changed and he urgently said, "What happened?" As he spoke, his sharp eyes stared at Mu Chen. This gaze made Mu Chen feel quite uncomfortable. "Did you do it?" Mu Chen faced his glare and shook his head. He said, "I was getting chased by him earlier and nearly lost my life. Luckily, I met an old man who killed Shui Tu." "An old man?" Liu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly and he stared suspiciously at Mu Chen. He waved his hand and two of his men approached Shui Tu's corpse. After searching for a while, they shook their heads towards Liu Ming. When Liu Ming noticed this, his eyes twitched. He stared at Mu Chen again, and a gentle smile emerged on his face. "Mu Chen, did you see the item that Shui Tu was holding?" "What item?" Mu Chen blinked and asked with a smile. "The old man searched around after taking care of him. However, I was hiding far away and did not dare approach. I don't know what he took." Liu Ming's expression instantly turned cold. "Mu Chen, enough with your nonsense. You must have taken the item on Shui Tu's body. As for that old man, you probably just made it up." Liu Yang yelled out. "You're saying..." Mu Chen looked at him strangely and said, "I was the one who killed this Shui Tu?" Liu Yang dawdled and was speechless. Shui Tu was at the spiritual rotation stage late phase, and was only a step away from reaching spirit stage. It was basically like a dream for Mu Chen to kill him. Liu Mubai stared coldly at Mu Chen. A dark and cold flame surged in the depths of his eyes. "Oh ho ho, Mu Chen! There's no need to joke with me. If you really took his item, I would definitely be grateful if you hand it over to me. Moreover, I will personally head to the Mu territory and talk to your father about this matter." Liu Ming tried his best to make his expression look gentler as he spoke. "Third Master Liu, I really didn't see anything on his body. I was already quite afraid when I was being chased by him. Why would I dare to take the initiative and approach him?" Mu Chen shook his head. His face looked quite honest and genuine. The corners of Liu Ming's eyes jumped. He finally could not suppress the rage within his heart. Although he did not believe that Mu Chen was able to kill Shui Tu, he was still the prime suspect. He immediately took a step forward and grasped at Mu Chen. He coldly said, "Since you refuse to tell the truth, then let me personally search your body." When Mu Chen noticed Liu Ming stretching his hand over, he gripped his hand for a moment and a black dagger appeared within his hand. However, just when Liu Ming's hand was about to grasp onto Mu Chen, another hand suddenly extended out and blocked it. Teacher Mo glanced at Liu Ming and a faint voice made Liu Ming's body tremble. "Liu Ming, you're going too far." That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye and see you next time.